All right, guys. We're going to head and call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Work session. We're going to start with the invocation and then follow it closely with the Pledge of Allegiance. Anybody interested in doing the invocation up this tonight? No? Yeah? All right. Okay, please. Get Tony a break in a minute to breathe.
Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you so very much for the beautiful weather and all of the beauty that it brings out in our town. We love to see everybody gathered here today to help us as we work through some issues for our city and help us, Lord, to reach the best decisions that we can possibly. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Thank you again for all the blessings that you bestow on us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, go ahead and go on to roll call, and we have full council tonight. Good to see you always. Before we get to agenda approval, I want to make a couple of changes. We're going to take off number 1 under old business. We're removing that. And then under new business, I'd like to add flagpole installation of the Daughters. I think it's Daughters of the American Revolution. Yeah, Daughters of the American Revolution, DAR, in Monroe.
Item number 3.
That will be item number 3. And then item number 4 would be Walnut Grove Elementary School student letters. With that being said, I'll go ahead at this time and ask if there is a motion to approve the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda with item number 1 from old business removed. And under new business, it should be number 3, flagpole installation by DAR, and number 4, Walnut Grove Elementary School letters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question. Should we table old business number 1 or just remove it? It's just a procedural.
We're going to be discussing it at the next work session. Do we need to remove it? We can just remove it.
Yeah.
All right. That's all right. Sure. Okay. All right, so is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
I was coming to aid you.
And it looks like the Church of the Grove expansion crew is here, and you are first on the agenda. So we welcome you. Come on.
I'll hang out back here with everybody else. And you need me, I'll hop up there.
How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Good. So, do you want to see samples first? Do you want to get our presentation pulled up? What?
I'd like to do it. I'm fast.
It's plugged in, and I'll start getting this stuff.
Do you need help?
No worries. You won't. So just plug it there. Where are you? There you go. Mouse. Is that good?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to remove mouse? Here's a remote. Use it. It's a remote. It's connected to here. If you want to use it at the podium, you're more than welcome to.
I think that.
Yeah.
No, what you does it? You put the election probably. Okay. Thank y'all again for having us. We're here for Church at the Grove and the expansion for the new building. I think if y'all had a chance to take a look at this email that we sent over last week, okay, good. So you guys have seen this. So know where that is. So again, there's a look at the church, kind of showing what the makeup is percent wise by the buildings makeup. I'll get to the next one. Here's again the floor plan layout. Good sized lobby for guys' entrance. A lot of area for the children, and then we got about 400 and almost 500 seats for the auditorium. Shifting over, this is, I guess, the main reason we're here is to show you guys some of our samples. So looking at the front elevation, I know we've had some concern over our horizontal panels. So I want to show you what we are proposing for the front entries horizontals. This would be sample of what that material looks like. The color, they only were able to give me what they ran. The one we're proposing is the darker, which would match what our renderings have been showing. So this is this panel. Seamless, the attachments and fasteners are hidden, so you don't see any of that. So it looks like it's all one consistent piece all the way across. I don't know if you want to pass this around or hold this. Just showing that color of what the horizontal panels would be just at the front entry. And then the IMPs is where we get into our insulated metal panels that we've got along the front, the left and the right elevations. The color that we're looking to do on the front, this is the sample that they gave us. Unfortunately, we're not able to run the exact color because of how they run it and cut samples. So this would be that color chip sample for the IMPs. That'll be on your front and your left elevation. And if you want to hold this, touch it, pass it around, however you want to, comes apart just like that. So that is your IMP sample at the front. On the right side, we've got the dark colored IMP. This is the sample color of that. That would show with this on that side, matches to our front entry panel as well. So you've got same colors matching on the front and your left elevations for the IMPs. Then we've got one more panel on the back rear elevation. On our rear, it will be, this is the cost-effective idea that we're going with on the rear. It would look just like this, and it will also be in this color here on the back. So you've got three colors. You've got your stone, you've got your light stone IMP, and then you've got your dark IMP. So those are the three colors that we're proposing.
Is that laid for those?
The same thing with this, you'll have a seamless, you don't see any of the fasteners that are hidden with how the panel is. This is just a sample of what that panel comes and looks like.
So that bottom picture is gonna be this color?
Click on the next, that's the left side, Natalie.
Well, how is that, those colors right there? Go back one slide, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So at the bottom, it's gonna be this, right?
Yes, you
Or
have,
this color.
yes.
And then the next little line up is going to be this.
Yes, that would be the top picture is your left elevation, which is going to be this color, which faces where the existing church is. And then this is just the opposite side. We wanted to give some color feature and just kind of break up how the look was.
So just on that right elevation though, there's three different colors there.
That's just your roof slope is what you're
Yeah,
seeing.
you're at the back part of the.
That's your vacuum parapet.
But you, I think I know what you're talking about. Excuse me.
You're seeing a brown, dark brown, and then a cream color.
You're seeing this, which is the dark brown, this,
That's your roof.
That's the roof.
that's the roof.
Yes. So,
Oh, and then this is the other roof that slopes down to that roof.
Yes.
because if you go back to the front, we have three different elevations.
Okay,
Okay.
get it.
Got it.
I had the same question.
Sorry.
It
So
would be like this instant right here where you see the slope and then you see the back.
Okay.
we've got stone. The roof will be, we can really do any color.
Right now, it's showing us got one. So it'd be silver, just standard commercial roof.
Stone sample here, that you see.
Pretty, I like that.
And it matches really close to the existing church. We've taken this up and put it side by side, so,
Nice, nice. It's really nice.
so this is the stone. Let's see. Here's just another rendering kind of showing up front, a little bit closer, showing the ribs of the shadow rib panel. Got the stone, the light stone IMP along the front and then the left. Same thing, wrapping it back around on this side. Then the rear, this shows that this vertical panel here in the dark, and then the same IMP just with that color matching that you've got up there of that panel. This is kind of our discussion with why we're looking to do IMPs again over the EFIS and stucco. It's just mainly the longevity of the IMPs, how they last up over weather and time. It's not no maintenance required. Once they're installed, they're installed. It's not like EFIS where it may crack, it move over time. The color may discolor in some spots. It's just a one-time install. Another good thing about it is this also acts as the insulation for that section of the building, so it reduces the amount of insulation that we've got to do along every wall. We'll still have to insulate the rear wall just because we're doing the PPR panel, but that's just a cost-effective deal that we're trying to save as much of the church's money as we can, to where they're getting the most bang for their buck on the building. You can put some of that cost inside and build out the interiors. Did I miss anything on IMPs and stucco?
I would say the one thing, and I'll hop in here, I was filling out a variance request for one. So the one thing I'd say is I'm making sure he hit everything. So obviously our value is really good. The one thing a lot of people don't talk about would be with the IMP, you're sealing up that envelope a lot better, so you don't have as much air intrusion from outside. So it is definitely a much better product. Not only does it have that green certification, it also is going to save them a lot of money on them from an energy standpoint. So there's definitely pluses to it there. It's a better product. It's a longer lasting product. EPIS is old, that's just a fact. So this is something that people have tried to come back and kind of put a better product out there that's going to last longer. You don't have to pay, you don't have to keep up, but it's definitely more energy efficient as well. So,
and the good thing about these panels too, if you do ever want to down the road paint them, you can paint them. If you wanted to change the color in 20 years, you could change the color in 20 years. If you wanted to leave it like it was forever, that color will stay there and be there forever.
if someone wanted to, I know the question was asked at some point, what would happen if the church decided to move, sell the building, whatever. This panel, you can brick right up the face of it. You can rock up the face of it. If you want to continue to go to create a complete masonry look, you're able to do that. So it's actually kind of a neat product. You don't have to go back and rebuild the whole assembly. You can come back and add some more masonry to it in the future should a developer want to buy it, and do something different. So it's really a good product. A lot of people just don't understand about it. The other thing, you asked about the color of the roof, and I want to make a note of that. These renderings are taken from right in the middle, right on, right? So that roof, what's the low eave height? 16, 18. So the low eave height 16. If you're standing on the ground or you're driving down the road, you really don't see the roof. So just to be clear, silver is the standard color for most every commercial building. So that's what that Galvalume is. It's just a cost-effective option for them. So anyway.
Here is very similar church we did for Solid Rock. It's got kind of the same idea with same color panels, same look of stone at the front, and then you've also got, I believe this video, does it work, Natalie? I think we showed this last time, but kind of the same idea with the PBR panels here, tying into our same color IMP, showing the stone as well, and just a drone shot flying around this facility, kind of showcasing what this actually looks like when it's installed, and not just bits and pieces of samples and then a couple of renderings. Just to show we've done this and it's successful and looked good, and we get a lot of comments about this church.
This is an actual live drone. This is not a rendering. So I know he said that, but just to be clear, this is the literal building in real life.
And that's what the roof would look like too.
Same slope, matter of fact, if you look at that building, it's got a similar structure to it even. It's just a very efficient build.
Yeah.
So we can save, a few $1 million.
Yeah. It doesn't look real.
Yeah, that's the real deal.
That's cool.
It's a very similar roof structure. Another video.
We work hard to make sure it looks that way.
And then here's another church for Stanton Springs that we did, and it's not quite as big, but still we did IMPs along the front and still the stone, just showcasing another build where we did this out.
That's that exact stone, actually.
Mhm.
That's on that building. That's the stone sitting right here, the same color.
Hunter, I want to thank you for your kind of updated
Yes, ma'am.
renderings.
Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Gives us a very good idea of what it's going to look like.
Yes, and then we got this shot here, kind of showing some of the lighting that we'll have on the building that showcases at night. That we're going to be well illuminated. Really want to highlight kind of this front stone features, and then in between the windows. I think I blew past it a little quickly. I know in our original submission that we did for you, we did not have windows along this elevation, so we went and added plenty of windows down through for the classrooms to get some natural lighting and just to kind of break up that elevation. So
Stone on the west side as well, and awnings. I think go back to the other side facing the existing church.
this side, yes.
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about over the last couple of months was adding more stone, wrapping that, making it look a little more finished by adding awnings and a little more stone on that west side of the building. So, or the side that faces the existing church now. So we tried to make sure we picked up and made it look a little less plain right there as well.
Thank you all.
Mhm.
Looks good.
And the windows and doors, they are black, right?
Yes, black frame. Mhm. We can get them another color if you do want another color, but black is typically what we like to see.
Yeah, typically black or dark bronze with tinted glass.
Thanks, great.
Do y'all need to hear, I know this is also with the metal panels, we've talked about, that there's a variance going to be required. That's actually what I was filling out while I was letting them do their thing, but, do y'all want to hear, do y'all need to hear anything from me? Just, I'm going to give you the paperwork, but do I need to explain the variance and how we feel that?
If you want to go through it real quick, I think that would be a good idea.
I can really quick. There's only a couple of points I really need to touch on, I think. The main one is that the original ordinance about metal panels was, we all know what it was to protect against. It was protect against an entire building covered in that and looking like, just a regular gable roof and all that. Obviously my job is not to interpret that. It is an ordinance, but that's the intent, right? It's not, the intent of the ordinance isn't to stop us from doing IMPs, right? Or a better product, something that's better. It's just to keep from having a bunch of cheap buildings built all over your city. This is not a cheap building. This is, as you see, what other churches in the area. This is a church that's 20 miles from here. The other one is, right? Or both of those are 20 miles from here at least, or less. So this is what other people are doing in the area. This is industry standard stuff. This is other municipalities. This is, all of these buildings have appraised for much more than they had in them even. As a matter of fact, I think yours has as well. So, I mean, these are great products. This is not cheap. For engineers, not cheap anymore. Metal panels are not cheap. By no means this is a cheap building, This material is about as expensive. If you went with an old school, maybe a split face block and then maybe some, just a standard stucco smear on, just basic stuff, that's about the price. So it's not like the same as doing this over here, which is about half that. But it is definitely a little cheaper than Ethos and definitely lasts longer. The long-term cost of it is definitely cheaper. So from the energy standpoint, it's better, looks better, all that good stuff. So it's going to be looking like this for a long time versus the church doesn't have enough volunteers and they don't get a chance to get it cleaned or painted. So a lot of other municipalities are doing the same thing. So that's kind of what my variance is going to say. I'm still working on trying to finish it up, but I do plan on handing y'all that tonight. So
What
Anyway,
about
that's
the
our
windows? The windows down to the ground, that needs to be a variance also.
okay, we'll add that. Sure.
Is there a third? Or is it just that, the metal and the windows, right?
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure we
Yes, ma'am.
cover everything tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I think the windows to the ground are only happening in this front entry area.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we pulled them on up, obviously, where there's going to be a chance for a rock to get kicked or whatever. Typically in this front entry area, there's a big concrete pad out there. You're not going to be up against the weed eating and kicking rocks. So we'll make sure we fill that out as well.
Well, it makes a statement to that look.
It does. You'll be able to see lighting through there. I mean, it's nice, plus the amount of light it lets in the building. It cuts down the amount of light they have to have in there
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah, just make sure your variance covers two things.
we'll do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Let me ask you a question. I was not sure this is not for them. I don't think, well, maybe a little bit. The side that has no extra stone or anything on it.
That's
See, that's the back end one side, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There's not anything special other than us mentioning that it'll be metal that needs to be in the variance, is there?
No, so those will be IMPs. They're the same product that's on the front of the building. We're just changing the color so that it's, and it does, that black does stand, or that whatever color, that's bronze, whatever it is.
Midnight brown.
Yeah, so it stands out. It does. It looks nice, but it's also not really, it's kind of subdued and off to the side. And it's more for contrast. It's just so you don't have a white box. So we don't have something that looks like a Home Depot or a Tractor Supply or something like that. So that's the purpose of that. And that's not our idea, that's an idea that everybody else has. It's just the industry standard to try to add something to offset that. But it is going to be the same panel as the front of the building, have the same texture, all that good stuff. So.
We will be putting up a fence. Yeah, it'll be a black, it's called out on the plans as a black ornament fence. So it won't be just your galvanized chain link.
The black basically disappears. Just nice.
Yeah, galvanized it can be, I guess that black would not be a good idea, or that bronze would not be a good idea.
With glue.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Did we figure out a sky bridge to go from the old church to the new church?
If we save enough money, it's in the works. There's definitely,
I'll start fundraising.
I will say, we did keep in mind in the design and layout of this building, that the ability to make it flow from the other building, or even in the future, if they wanted to drive under or something like that, to be able to, and they wanted to go through that part of the construction, we would be able to do that. So it is actually kept in mind as well, where it ties in the future.
Thank you for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Joe, I have a couple of questions for you. With variances,
Yes.
the process that they will go through with those, they'll put it to council, or when do we need to go through P and Z?
Well, the ordinance, and I was trying to pull it up because I left my paper copy sitting on my desk. The ordinance, I believe, indicated it comes straight to council. Previous councils have sent it through planning commission and get a hearing and a read.
Okay.
So, but I believe the ordinance indicates that they go straight to council.
Okay.
It would be nice when it gets filed that someone would scan it to me just to review but make sure the section numbers are in there. And that really is for posterity's sake, for future record keeping.
When it's submitted.
When it's submitted, just to see that that what, some of it comes from, I think, section 613. Then some of it comes from the downtown overlay district, which is the windows down to so there's two separate sections that I can come off the top of my head. They're going to ask for a variance from.
The one that's online now has links from the menu to those pages.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, I have a copy I keep on my C drive too, just for service, but that's good to know. I love acting links, so thank you for whoever did that.
Everything did that.
I think I got tired of flipping through pages, that I can fix this.
How you do some
It was self-serving.
other clients, zoning works.
Okay, so this is an architectural review for the church. The variances, I guess, will be submitted tonight.
Yes.
And that is something we can get to you, Joe, and then to council and make a vote on that next week. Or not next week, the following meeting, right? March 13th.
If you're taking it through a public hearing,
It needs
planning commission will be a little longer.
If we take it through then, right?
Do we need to take it through?
We
now?
don't.
Well, let's see what our
It's
ordinance,
a vague thing.
um. Yeah. It needs, to- if there's a public hearing, it's gotta meet the advertising requirements you have for public hearings. So we need to be able to be advertised, and in the past, we have posted a sign and we have just held it. The main issue is making sure that you meet your advertising requirements, so it doesn't appear that this application is being treated any differently than, we've only had a couple recently, and there was the Johnson variance, and then before that, there was the sewer variance, which actually was out of a different document, so. I would, if I would ask that if once it's turned in, if Lynn will scan it, send it to me in the morning, let me look and I can reply back and say, here's my thoughts. We can copy the attorney as well on how to handle it and be proper.
Okay.
Unless they're trying to pull a building permit tomorrow, I mean, I think there's probably time to do that.
No, they're not.
With the manufactured home in Forest Glen, didn't we do, PNC had a hearing and then we had one right after their meeting was over where we voted on it. Isn't that right?
Let's look at the timeline tomorrow, and it won't be able to be done at the council meeting approving because there's just not enough time. But we can look at if you guys are not planning to break ground, and build in the next month and a half, then we can go ahead and get this done as quickly as possible and get it back.
If I may ask, did they submit an application package for their building permit?
We have not submitted a package yet.
This is all part of the,
Right.
Yes,
I'm assuming that they would want to get your variance addressed before you submitted your package, so it would still need to go through fire marshal review and other reviews, so
Plenty of time.
there should be time. The main thing is if the council is amenable after following your process to have the variance approved before the building permit was issued, so that there's no question that y'all aren't able to issue the permit.
We would probably want to do them concurrently. It's, we may submit for building permit, 2 or 3 weeks or something. So that way that's already being reviewed. Worst case scenario, we would have to go back and modify it based on the variance not being granted. So we'd rather get it in confidence, that way it can be reviewed at least the first time,
Yeah.
in case there's comments.
And that's common for
Yeah.
council to do that. I mean, now Adobe's not cooperating, but if I have that, I can respond back with that information.
Okay, I think that sounds good.
Mayor, unless it says that it has to go before planning and zoning. My opinion in the case of this particular one, because we've covered it so many times, that would sort of be redundant and extra cost to council and time that is unnecessary. So for it to come straight to council, it seems like the appropriate action in this case.
Yep.
Unless there's some legal reason not to.
I'll go ahead and review all that with Joe in the morning, and we'll get a timeline together, but I understand what you're saying. We don't want to belabor the decision.
Variances that are to sewer requirements are not zoning actions. Zonings for architectural controls usually are.
Mhm.
So I don't know how that's usually a planning commission. There's a,
So you're
there's a step in there. You gotta have public hearing that you advertise to, and that's usually the one.
I hear you. All right. All right, if there's nothing else, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next topic. Thank you again, guys, for coming in, and we will keep you in the loop as it's going on, and we'll make sure. Fortunately, we all know each other very well at this point and can communicate what's going on. We are going to move on to thank you, ma'am. Why do I always do that? We're going to move on to the safety coordinator resolution. I just want to let you guys know, the rest of the council know what the safety coordinator resolution is. It is something that once we get it in place and we have a person, it would be Brian Pilgrim, and Brian is aware of it. he actually named himself as the safety coordinator because he's the manager for Public Works. Once this is in place and he has attended 3 training sessions, which he will have done by the end of April. And puts into place some practices that we've already learned about through our insurance company, a group of the insurance company. Then the Public Works will be able to apply for grants for safety equipment based on the amount of what we pay each year for insurance. It's a percentage of that. And so that's why we're putting this into place. And Brian is already making a checklist of things he would like to make sure that they have for public safety. And they desperately need it. They have very old safety equipment, and this will afford them the ability to get the new stuff. So it's just a safety coordinator resolution that was given to us by the organization we're working with. It'll have to be voted on at the next meeting in March at the council meeting. And if you have any questions, always welcome to call me, or you can call Brian because he's very aware of what this whole program is. He's met with the director of it, and the guys have been trained on site. And they've also gone to the Gainesville to have some training, and we'll continue to do that for the next couple of months.
Wow, that's good. If I may ask a question, so this would be within the scope of his current position, so to
Yes.
speak?
Yes.
Foreseeable future, would we assume that the public works manager will be the safety coordinator?
I would think so. When we grow and we have new positions brought on, then we can always explore if there's another person or that is able to do that. If the public works manager becomes very busy with other things, and if there's an assistant director or manager, we can always look at putting that person in charge. But for right now, it is Brian. And he thought that was the best plan. Okay, so that's all that is, and it will be the room at the next meeting. Okay. Now we move to our sewer plant expansion and discussion about bids and whatnot, and I'm going to invite Jim and Joe to come up and talk about that. And I believe we have the builder who had the lowest bid with us today too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peter Nielsen, Chief Construction.
Thank you for coming.
So, Mayor and Council, good to see you all again officially. I know I sent a written update as before your last council meeting on where we stood at that time. Since your council meeting, the city of Walnut Grove received 2 bids for the construction of your phase 2 expansion to your land application system. And we were here, Jim and I, Natalie and I were here to open bids on Wednesday the 19th. And the 2 bids were open. The low bidder was IHC Construction Services LLC for a sum of $4,055,500. And then Sol Construction for a sum of $4,718,000. So and also to bring you aware that based on the existing appropriated funds, grant and local funds, the construction funds and the contingency adds up to $3,362,250, which is a lot of money. It's lots of zeros. However, and I did the math on the back, that's considerably short at the moment of the funds that you need in order to complete the project. So we've wanted to come before you, and it worked out very nicely to talk about it. We have a number of options for y'all to chew on, and possibilities, and then, answer any questions. Jim and I had a Teams meeting with Peter on Tuesday and talked about some possibilities for modifications to the scope as it was bid is one avenue to, and there's some other things that we can discuss, and he certainly can answer questions from the contractors in. There's also the possibility of seeking some additional funding from a couple of different sources to get the city the sufficient revenue to do the project. And some of that ends up becoming, a policy matter for you all to decide how you want to approach. So in the last 2 pages, I put just gave you some numbers, and I know it's a lot of numbers, but, to help you all out, the current project budget as it stands is, $3,567,250. There was some additional costs for engineering and legal admin that we'd included in the original project budget. So, some of that, can be, there's a couple of options with that, but we really just wanted to come up and say, and kind of get some input on you all and then talk about some different possibilities you all have. Because I know in my conversations with the mayor that trying to do something that might reduce the treatment capacity didn't seem to be a popular thing with the mayor. And I understand that. And then, and so that we have to work around what other things could we do. So without stealing anybody's thunder, I wanted to just kind of do the introduction. And Jim is here to answer some design thoughts, and Peter is here if you have some specific questions, and we bounce some things off each other. And I don't know, hopefully he's got maybe some items written down that we could discuss in front of you, since this is an informal setting to talk about how we can make this happen. So we'll certainly entertain questions at this point, and we'll answer the best of our ability.
Any solutions, Jim?
I don't think that we should reject the bids and we could reconfigure, but I also don't think we should reduce the scope.
I was gonna say, if we reduce the scope, what would we be reducing? And if there's something that's gonna be less, why wouldn't we have done that to start with?
I think the only real reduction in scope means reduction in capacity.
Okay.
Mhm.
There really isn't any extras built in.
No, we need to double that.
Well, is I always put in reject and rebid as an option for local governments. So we're on front of everybody. That's always an option, and I have had clients that do that. But however, in this case, I don't think we would advise that. I just put it out there because it's sort of a known thing, and there's time and there's all these other factors involved, and this, and it's a known entity, and it, you may not get any bidders again. You've got a known entity that's giving you a price,
Mhm.
and now it's a matter of getting to the sweet spot, wherever that may be, for you all to be able to move forward. Because you have people, I get regular updates from some developers asking where does this project stand? So I know there's a lot of interest in it.
I did ask the question of Joe as to why we had a 600,000 plus difference in our lowest bid, was an estimated cost. And is there a reason, or is there a, that I can wrap my head around $600,000 difference between what was recommended and what it came in at for the lowest bid? Has there been a huge increase in the price of metal, building materials, something, or I was just curious what's happening, how we got there. Did we wait too long?
I think that, these kinds of projects are sometimes hit or miss with the availability of contractors, maybe, availability of their subs, just the distances that they're bringing people and things of that nature. An estimate is sometimes only as good as what you're looking at the time. So, it's probably just the nature of that. Right now, we're looking at some variable costs and all kinds of things.
Would the timeline of working through the weekends that we approved perhaps help us with savings, like what was suggested before?
Well, I think that that request was really made by the plant constructor, and that's just the nature of how they do their business. Is that they bring a crew in and they just do that real fast. And for them, they try to budget as little time on site or as possible. Because they're just a sub of the GC. So they come in, they come out, and they want to be here as quick as possible to get it done. And that's all they do, so they're really kind of used to do it.
Somebody behind you.
If I could add on to that,
Sure.
that is a pattern, firm comes around, goes around the country and does this. So every day that they are in town costs them money. So they want to get their work done as quickly as possible and get on to the next one. So that's why they work 6/10s.
Okay. Speaking of time, I just had a question about the, I guess it's bullet point number 5, obtaining additional funding from GFO around 10%. Would we be able to go ahead and progress with the phase 2 expansion? Even if we haven't gotten this to the board? Like if we wanted to start in March, we could do that and still have this 10% increase applied for and go before the board in August.
I'll give you my non-legal opinion that if you award a bid, and please, city attorney, if you award a bid for a price, then you have indicated that you have sufficient funds to pay that contractor that price, and they enter into a contract, they will do the work for the price plus however it changes.
Right.
So the answer is if you decided to ask for all the additional funds that you need, beyond the 10% that the executive director can grant, pretty much with a request from the mayor. If you want to get the additional, and this happens a lot, we've had several projects that have to go back to GFA for additional funds. They'll basically treat it as a new application, and we'll have to go through underwriting again. The deadline for the May meeting is tomorrow, so. But if we got it in place for the August meeting as an option, yes, you would, the way you have right now, 65-70% already committed and appropriated without doing anything else to do the project.
Right.
You would just have to know that the additional funds to complete it, you'd have to get from some source.
Right.
So it's possible. I mean, I think we've done several like that where they've had to go back to the well, so to speak, to get the funding to do it. I just, from a policy standpoint about your debt service and all that, that's something you all have to chew on, and your ability to manage the debt. But there's a couple of different ways to do that, but it's possible to do that.
That's if we go for additional funds from the GFA.
Correct.
But if we just have them increase the amount 10%, that doesn't have to go back.
No, that's just, that's just built into and that came from Jamel Cherry. I asked her that specific, I let her know that it come in above our project budget. So that would be another $240,000 that you could get. Now that is money that you would borrow. Mm-hmm. So essentially you're tacking onto your existing loan agreement.
Right.
So, but that's 30 years at 3.9%. So, which is still a really good interest rate. That would get you all to $3,606,000.
Right.
Which makes our difference down to about 448, which we need to get from somewhere.
Right.
Somehow.
I also, so if we were able to go get that 10% without the board approval of 244, guys, if you look at the sheet of paper right here, you have it in front of you. Look under the current accounts as of today. Look at the old sewer money market and the phase 2 money market. I've opened up a second money market account for this project, so we keep the funds separate. So that's why we are 975 in one and 2 in another. If we add those together, it was the amount that was in the old, okay? But I had to open the new one, and I knew we had put funds into it.
You said the old sewer money account and
Old sewer money market
and the money market?
and the phase 2 money market,
Okay,
the bottom two.
okay.
Okay, that comes to 1.17547,479. We have obligated a total of 506,753, 500,000, and an additional 120,000. That leaves us with an additional $48,721 and 79 cents that we can add to that 244 if we get the extra 10. Additionally, if you look at this, which is the 2019 SPLOST, We originally stated, actually, the previous administration stated that the sewer system improvements would be 736,433. It was estimated that, how much is it? Estimated that a certain amount, like 900 and, oh, there, yeah, it was estimated that 1.6 would come in. We're actually above that right now. So there are additional funds that are lost, 2019 SWAT account. And then I don't know the exact amount because I didn't have time today to figure that out. And then if we went ahead and did, because we have people chomping at the bit to reserve sewer capacity, and we all talked recently about raising it from $6,000 up a little bit, that might get us to where we need to go. If we just kind of crunch these numbers a little bit better to get us where we need to be. When Joe mentioned to me the idea of limiting sewer capacity, there's just no way. We have people waiting on sewer capacity. We
No,
have
we're
to
gonna
build
do it.
up
We have to
our
do that.
downtown. I also want you to look at those current accounts. We have quite a bit of money in SPOS. We have additional money coming into 2025 SPOS, but you don't really want to touch because that's what could be going. We have to take some money towards the next phase.
While you're on that, Mayor, how much have we committed to the Magnolia Springs project? Is any of that committed?
We are at approximately 130,000, but if you look above the accounts up to the Elmate funds,
Okay,
we have $84,842 to put towards Emerald Cove stormwater and Magnolia Springs stormwater. And so we have a nice fund to go towards that also. Look at the rest of the funds. The general fund, our money market fund. Our money market fund is our savings, which is important to have. But I do believe that if we look at all these numbers, if we go to JIFA, if we look at getting some sewer capacity, right now, we can purchase sewer capacity in advance. And believe that we can go ahead and meet the need of this $600 and some odd thousand. So I just wanted to bring those figures to your attention. We can crunch those a little bit more, but I feel it's very important that we move forward. Disappointing that it's $600,000 difference. Yeah, very disappointing. Kind of a stomach drop moment at first, but I think we're in a position to be able to do what we need to do and move forward without having to go back to JIFA, going in front of the board, postponing the project.
right.
Which could cost, more money to build. Who knows what things going on.
I'll add on to that. Steel prices went up 10% in the month of January alone.
Wow.
Postponing is a bad idea.
How about Legos?
I am a big fan.
We're working with that over here, but there might be a little leakage there. I offered SIP, a very large SIP.
I don't want to talk, make it political.
Yeah.
Current administration is doing a lot of things with commodity pricing.
Yeah.
Prices gonna go up.
Yeah.
Well, you want to be sure to have a float in there, a cushion for unforeseen and also just to help you out with, there's things that we don't, once they start working around it, and we have contingency built into it, just that the prices are assuming we're using that contingency. But given on how the length of time of this contract plus the funding flow, in other words, the contract was put in fairly regular pay request that we have to submit a schedule to that to GFO. There's time in this due to the length of the contract. We're at 100 days, 450. 450. I mean, that's a year and a half. There's time to have money. We can draw money down, and we're not having to draw it all down at once and you only pay back what you draw down at the end of the project.
Right.
And you have money in the bank now, you could, funding flow, you could pay those out with your local resources. And there will be time to get your program updated on sewer capacity reservation that we talked about. Well, we want to get this one going, and now would be a good time to talk about it. So then if you were able to have some success there, then that's money that you could use to refund some of those other accounts. We have clients that have to do that. We'll pay out of this and we'll pay back into it. So some of that's just you all get to make the decisions on how you want to fund it.
Right.
And all those, you know, the fact that you've got those resources, is very good.
Yeah.
A lot of communities, your size, our size, don't have that,
Right.
those resources. So I commend you all for being frugal.
Very frugal.
But have we talked about pre-selling the reserves, the tax? Is that a common thing to do?
We have talked about the sewer ordinance that we have right now doesn't allow for anybody to reserve any kind of sewer capacity at all. But unfortunately, the problem with that also is by not allowing anybody to do that, some of these folks who want to build won't build because they don't have sewer capacity yet, and they could start building and all of a sudden not have sewer capacity. So it's a sticky situation where if somebody wants to build, is ready to build, is ready to move forward, they need to know that they're going to have sewer capacity sometimes just to be able to get funding.
Mm.
And if they don't have that sewer capacity, and we can put contingencies on it, we can put guidelines and other things on it that says if you are not building or if you're not doing this by this time period, then your sewer capacity can go to someone else. So there's lots of ways to do it. And Joe and I have talked about redoing our sewer.
Correct. And a lot of communities do something like that. They'll put down a deposit. And you get to set that as to council on, so you're not committing, but you can get half of it and there are timeframes. And the town of Brazelton, we used to do their water and wastewater 25 years ago. And they had 5 phases of their wastewater treatment expansion going at the same time in some stage of, because they're the only community in that area that had sewer. So that's what they were doing. They were essentially pre-selling capacity to fund their part of it because there was USDA money. There was all these moving parts. And Jim and I were only, this was going on by some other people in our company at the time, but we were around. But that's how they were able to, and a lot of communities do that. You just need to have a policy that's clear and that the potential users can understand, and they understand that what you know, if they give you a deposit or the whole thing or however you decide, that money it's dedicated for that, and that they know when they need to come pull a building permit, they've got the right, that gives them the right to connect to your system. So yes, and you have some time on this. If you, and we've got some things sort of sitting around. We were just waiting on some time to do that, so we could certainly program that into a future work session to chew on that.
Yeah.
Joe, do you know, other cities with commercial connection fees? Do you have a roundabout, or Tony, know what a commercial connection fee normally runs in cities around us? Is it $6,000 or would we expect it to be more than that?
It's going to depend on I know down at Bryan County, on the north side of the county where the meta plant's going, theirs are 10,000 for residential. I mean, they've had to really go up. I know that my community, we went through a study and we set a capacity recovery fee that's based on, and so we did ours based on the meter size. And we would have them up to a 6-inch might be $65,000 if a sewer meter. I'm not suggesting, I mean, that takes a little bit more legwork. I know that everywhere I know I've worked, they've had to go up recently because everybody was undervaluing the labor needed to even put, the actual labor and materials to put the tap in. So, we could dig around and get some of those numbers for you, some comparison from some either similarly sized and neighboring communities, but.
It's also based on demand. Right.
Right.
I looked at 3 Georgia cities and 3 Georgia counties that had sewer. And most of them were doing it the way Joe was describing it, by usage. Not by pipe size, yeah.
And the way
And for commercial, if there was a baseline and you can get it smaller than that, and it only went bigger from there. So the cost was around.
And the way your commercial, it's not the flat 6 for commercial, it's based upon every 250 gallons per day that that user uses. Now residential right now, you set it at 6,000 flat. And then they just pay whatever your rate is once they're connected. But for commercial, I think we had calculated for the original, one of the mixed use, Matt Rutledge was gonna be $140-something thousand just because of the different uses have different demands. If you didn't adjust it, it would help you all build your fund balance back for maintenance of the system plus your next phase of your project. But if you want to tweak them because that 6,000 number is a couple of years, at least 4 years old now.
Exactly.
If you wanted some real cost, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. As long as the folks understand how you came up with the calculation, and it reflects the cost, the value of putting it in. And some communities, if they do the work, you may charge them a certain fee, but the way y'all have it now, and I certainly support that, is if you want to connect, that's the cost to connect. And that's built into the cost of the project. And then that's money that you will need to maintain your system as you grow it, because it will, as we know, sewer systems will age like anything else, and you've got to have, eventually going to have dedicated personnel to maintain it. You've got to be able to
Sustain that.
plus, what you're charging in user fees
And the repair costs. Yeah.
and repair and.
And we haven't changed our fees in what, 4 years?
If I'm not mistaken, those were the original amounts.
Yeah.
I was on that board and I'm
Okay.
pretty sure those were the original amounts.
So,
And so that's gonna go back roughly 12 years.
Yeah.
Did my math wrong?
There are lots of ways to do it. And there are lots of ways to be able to continue on our timeline while we are putting some of these things in place, because we have some funding here. And if we have to use it, we can replace it when we get some other things in place. How does everybody feel about that? I mean, I'm ready.
I'm not ready. Just gonna do it all at once. My biggest question that I had, and I asked Joe earlier, and I've been sitting here debating whether or not to even bring this. But since we have a representative here from the company that had the lowest bid, he might be able to help us out with that question. My biggest question was, what is our commitment once we sign a contract with someone? If it would be mainly material prices, I think that if they suddenly got way out of hand, because, I mean, quite frankly, we're in a situation, we don't know where things are gonna land over the next short/long period of time. So, if material things got really haywire and say quadrupled in price, are they required to hold to that contract and that price? Or are they gonna be the ones to have to eat that difference? Because that would be a loss to them.
Isn't that what that contingency is?
Well, that's a 15%.
Yeah.
That wouldn't take care of a huge change in price.
I have to see a couple of people who want to answer this question.
So, to be honest, I don't know if I've read your agreement exactly to know what that means.
Fair
So I'm gonna speak in generalities and know that the contract documents might say something different.
Okay.
Typically, there's a force majeure clause,
That's what
which acts of God, hurricane comes through, things of that nature, that covers us, spreads the risk to you from me back to you in that situation. Typically, material cost increase are all on me. But that is why my price is where my price is. That's why we are where we are, and if we reboot this in a month, my number's going up.
I'd like to hear from Tony.
It's a lump sum contract. I would expect that to be what these documents say too. So that risk of price increases on materials go to them.
Okay.
The only
We hope
problem,
to look at that.
the only problem with the bidding separation is usually did you pinch your low bidder more than he can afford to do?
Right.
it's not, there's not a problem in that area. It looks like the other guys wanted to make a lot more money. But that bid number that is substantially lower, it triggers did we get too good to deal? Right, in a lump sum bid situation.
Mhm.
And once you accept the bid, you're bound to it. So you gotta have the money somewhere. And it can't be somebody might approve it. It's gotta be, you gotta line it up before you pull the trigger on voting. Because you can get out of it right now just by rejecting bids. You just gotta line it all up. You're an example of why selling capacity in advance is not a good idea. And it was what happened to you when you built the plant first time. And that is people buy the capacity and don't use it. You need to turn this thing on and let that sewage start flowing and people start paying by the month. And if you run the risk and you can negotiate terms, but nobody's going to give you $600,000 and not have a surefire bet that they're going to give you capacity. So that term probably ain't going to work out. Splost is not the numbers you put in your original advertisement is not locked in. And so if this is a superior project to other projects that were in there, nobody knows when they do Splost how much a project is going to cost ever. And so you can end up doing one because the prices went up so much. And so if you reallocate your Splost to an approved project, it's okay to do, and you can see when that money's going to come in and go back into your reserves. And so, and then you got a lot of demand, and so you can start talking to those people about how quickly they're going to want to buy capacity and start building and sort of line that up as your repayment process too. So. Okay. Force majeure.
And to expand on what he said, yes, when the bid numbers were revealed, yes, we were concerned about where we were and where the second bid was. Just as you were concerned on where we were to the engineer's number, we were concerned there. We've gone back and reviewed our things and we were ready to proceed.
Awesome. Force majeure is really a protection of the contractor who can't perform because of supply. It buys time. It doesn't change your bid really. It puts him in a slot where he can get additional time with, there's a war. But it really is a time delay. It is not a price change event.
Okay.
In this contract, this is an 18-month project, correct? But that's how long we're expecting it to be from start to finish, correct?
Yes. Now, a lot of the cost on that is, I believe is going to be front loaded because the second part of the project is just to get the conditions where you would actually get the spray to grow. So the money is the flow, the cash flow is going to be probably most of it in the first 12 months. But that's.
We all look at the 2019 Splost account.
I may have numbers wrong in my head, but I think it's 15 months.
The faster you get, the happier we'll be.
Another project.
Some of us will stand there and just watch.
Correct, yes, yeah, 15 months.
That's
awesome. That's what's in there. So I just wanted to make sure that I showed you guys some of the money, some of the funds. So you have a real good idea of where we are. Because this is something that is slotted to be on the next council meeting for a vote and moving forward, and that would obligate us to the contract. Okay.
when we vote on that. Is it council's job to allocate exactly where those funds are coming from? Okay.
It is your job. You don't have to vote that.
Okay.
It's approve a bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
So we're just saying, we believe we can do this and this is how, but we don't have to say how, so to speak.
You want to know how.
While we get things for variances to Joe on the other project. I will talk with Joe about this project, and I will make sure that you guys have a detailed description of where the money can come from and any other backup documentation or information that to reassure you that that does not deplete all of our funds and we're still in a very good
Yeah,
position.
that's what I was just saying. What I would like to be included in that would be any projects that we have on hand that would be coming from these same sources that
Absolutely.
you maybe mentioned those so that we know we're still on track for those.
We have Aaron Wadley right now in the process of working on a paving schedule and a stormwater repair schedule, which would include not necessarily Magnolia, that will be included in the finances, but stormwater in Emerald Cove, in front of the park, down Park Street, and any other, over on Old 138. So those are the main objectives right now. But I will make sure that you guys have that information to know what the cost is estimated to be and where that money would come from. Okay? Before you have to make a vote.
And then this money from the county is, we're getting more than that.
This lost account for 2019,
Mm-hmm.
actually, this is the 2019, 2024, so this is plus 2025.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the estimated money to come in for that 1.6. Okay, and in our old 2019, we had 1.188. Okay.
So what we will do, what we will send to you next is, a package that has our engineer's opinion letter on moving forward with the project. We'll send a notice of award, and then it will have the things you would need to award the project, and that will be signed at that meeting or the next day, and then we get that back to the contractor, like your Emerald Cove paving, and then we would proceed with the bonds and insurance letter and start scheduling for pre-construction and all those sorts of things. But we'll give all that information to you. We'll get that to you ahead of your council packets for the 13th meeting, which means we need to get it to you next week. So you'll have that in addition to the information that the mayor collects and we talk, just so you'll have all the information you need to, all right, so we're ready to go forward, and then we'll go forward.
Okay.
Okay, I have one question for you, Joe.
Yes.
So that I'm clear on this. They built the plant. Ready to go. The connection from the plant, the current pipeline that we have up to the parkway, that will be utilized, or will there be a new line? And if so, is that part of the deal? You follow me?
Yes, I do, and Jim, most 99% of this will be on the part at the LAS site, or we're also part of the project is to upgrade the influent pump station in Parker Cemetery.
Okay,
But all of the gravity line that goes from
right, from the fire.
there back up to the fire station down, no, none of that's in this project,
Okay,
because it's existing and is a sufficient capacity.
in other words, we're not going to do anything.
No, this is basically on the treatment end to get you that additional capacity. And then once that's online, then you will have users connecting to that sewer.
Right.
The popular ones are running in other places, and then that becomes, line work projects that you would go through like the enclave, they submitted drawings, we reviewed it. We got inspected, and once it was completed, they started, using the system. So, and then,
Yeah, we won't have large requirements there to add in down the road, or that's something we can negotiate with builders, for example.
well, correct, and
Okay,
if you have, thinking too far ahead, if you have sufficient demand in that basin that requires some, then you kind of make that another project to do something to increase the basin.
all right,
If we're wanting to serve a different part of town, then that's a separate project to catch the sewage and then transmit it back to this.
right.
So, and you treat those as kind of separate projects, but I have reasonable faith that when we designed that interceptor line, outfall line, it was a sufficient size to handle that basin. That's sort of our common engineering practice, assuming there was going to be all this growth. So it's something.
Yeah,
that
well, yeah, the original did look at my notes the other day, and I think it was down Park Street was supposed to be one of the first expansions. But I don't think we can get to that.
Oh, it's possible. I know, and we'd love to help you with that when y'all are ready to take on those, there were, I was looking where we could set a pump station coming to Park Street. I was thinking about that, but I mean, that's you all, it's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
As you
Okay.
will do with additional capacity, and then how will you, because once it gets out there, people are gonna want it, and then you all get the joy of figuring out how you want to grow your system based on your other planning efforts that y'all are working on too. So, keep that in mind too with your envision what grows, that will all sort of tie into this
You're right.
in a good way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. Thank you. You're all right.
One other, and I know I thought I heard the decision is, hey, we've got to have the capacity we've planned for. But normally bidders can't really negotiate with the city. But once a low bidder is designated, then you can have the contractor input cost savings into the project and make the bid lower.
Mhm.
And so I just throw that out because it might give him an opportunity. He's got a couple of weeks before the bids are accepted or rejected, and in that time period, he can look, he has special skills to look at it and say, is there some cost savings that can be implemented here?
That's a very good
Get
point.
back with Joe.
I like how you said it better than me looking at him and would you please cut it down a little bit?
It doesn't come that, but there may be some practices or some things that he sees right off in the plan that
Yeah.
could be a cost savings.
Well, okay, thank you. You're right. Is there any other questions on this one? Is there any concerns? Is there any? Okay. I am gonna go ahead and put this on the next agenda before we go. Right? And I will get you that information. So we can continue moving forward. Okay, just flying through here. Next thing is the flagpole install at the library. The Daughters of the American Revolution in the Monroe chapter would like to purchase a flagpole and install it at the library. And when they told me about it, I thought it was a great idea. Bring it just to let you know as a courtesy. It is a city property. See if there was any concern. I did say that if it was approved, that the city would go ahead and donate a flag to them. I talked to the librarian. She's very excited about the idea. There is no cost for the city at all. None.
That was my question. Can we do better job of lighting it? If it's gonna be displayed or something?
But we can certainly talk with them. Well, that would have to be with the Daughters of the American. I think there's lighting there in front, isn't there, up the library? Where they want to put it is kind of right there, to the right at the entrance. We'll take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, but I agree with you that it needs to be lit up. Yeah, better than the ones that.
Pictures getting not solar.
Lines and different things of that nature, where they want to.
Yeah. There are some that can be mounted that do put up a lot more light than the current one that we have on.
I'm going at the flagpole location,
Mhm.
watching out for lines and
Oh.
that sort of thing.
Clay, their facilities manager, will be there doing the installation and he's aware of all of that. He would be doing the install. And the last but not least is in front of you. You have a packet of letters from Walnut Grove Elementary School students who are asking us to consider going green. Each student sent a letter to one of us, so you have a packet of anywhere between 3 or 4 or 5 letters. And I think it's very important if the students took the time to do this, I would encourage you to read them and perhaps get back in touch with them. Or as a class, but I just think that they took the time. We need to know what things.
I know these children.
Well,
Third grade, I know these children. Me and her.
I have been in those.
Oh, my God.
And cousins.
Oh, and I got one from my baby. Oh, and he wrote it in cursive type font. Love it. Sorry.
So
Are those letters from who?
My son, from third graders at Walnut Grove.
It has their name at the bottom.
No one has that.
These are all different students.
Oh,
Each student.
I just
decided
decided
to.
I had to say third grade student.
I just wanted to share that with you. Those are letters for you guys, and if you have the time, let them know you're paying attention. Okay? And I think that is it for today. Does anybody else have anything else that they would
Well,
like?
I want to add to this. I think they need to write for our sanitation department. Because when I put up my cardboard boxes, I expect those to be recycled. And they throw them in the regular trash. I watched yesterday.
No, mine was a separate guy coming through.
Huh?
Mine was with a separate.
Well, we have a separate truck that comes through, but the separate truck is not the one that picks up the cardboard boxes. They throw those on the regular trash truck.
Every time.
Money my neighborhood. At my house, I'm like, on box 20. Okay, that's what I'm ready to go. Get rid
So
of.
that is what we're gonna end on. And next week or the next meeting will be several votes. So please, when you get some more information coming from the city hall, please review it so that you're ready and able to make a decision. Okay, on those things. All right. With that being, any other comments, guys? Nothing? All right. I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Good job.
Second? Aye. Second. Okay. All in favor? Good hands, okay, unanimous. Thank you all.